A World Series for the ages ends in back-to-back championships for the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is MLB Game Night. Let's talk about it.
When that final out is made, you know it's time for Locked On MLB Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. Prepare to experience game day reactions like never before. Only on Locked On MLB Game Night. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into MLB Game Night, where we cover every single game, every single night, as only the Locked On Podcast Network can do it. I'm your host, Lindsey Crosby, host of the Locked On Braves Postcast over on Locked On Sports Atlanta. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. And a handsome fellow over there, Steve Lennox, host of Locked On Red Sox Postcast. Follow him on the X at Linux on Baseball. And Steve, we have a new world champion, same as the old world champion, Los Angeles Dodgers, in extra innings of Game 7, take down the Toronto Blue Jays 5-4. I want to get into everything, right? The MVP, that ninth inning, Miguel Rojas, Yamamoto coming back for multiple innings, where, is this a dynasty? Is this bad for baseball? All of that kind of stuff. Before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. So download the app today. Okay, 5-4 victory in 11 innings. We're going to do some of the, this feels like an instant classic. I know we're trying to not immediately crown something as one of the greatest games ever. That's a lot of emotion at play here. But thinking about the 9th, 10th, and 11th inning, and not only what happened, but the way that it happened, with Miguel Rojas in the 9th inning getting the home run, turning around, making the defensive play in the bottom half of the inning, and then Will Smith getting what ended up being the game-winning run in the 11th. I don't quite think it's what I would have expected if you told me the Dodgers won Game 7 to win it. I don't think those are the first two guys I'd have gone to say this is why it happened.
I think we should have gone on as the clocks were turning back in a couple of hours, just to digest everything for a second and third time. But tip of the cap to Dave Roberts, the Los Angeles Dodgers, back-to-back champions. I hurt for Alejandro Kirk right now. I hurt for the Blue Jays, Hoffman. They had it. They had two opportunities to win it at home. They didn't. And the Dodgers, just so many big moments in Game 7, so many tremendous moments throughout the course of the World Series. But we're the better for it. we got to enjoy this as fans. And I don't know if I fell in love again or, I'm invigorated again for baseball in the postseason. I didn't want it to end, but just tremendous, really. I don't want to get into hyperbole, but this exceeded expectations for 7 games and how it ultimately ended.
Yeah, I think I didn't necessarily have and there's a comment here in the chat. I didn't have a dog in this fight. I didn't either, right? I wasn't rooting for either team. I wanted good baseball. We absolutely got good baseball in just about every single game. And what blows my mind is all of the little things that add up in a World Series. I think if you step back and you look at this series, I think you say Toronto was the better team in 5 games.
Yeah.
But they don't come out at the end, and it's the little things. I think, for instance, in the 9th inning, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at third base, he was put in to run for Bo Bichette, which is a very smart decision. Bo Bichette's not moving very well. And if his lead off of third base is another foot, half a foot even, from what it actually was, he's probably safe at home. There's just so many little tiny things. If Andy Pages doesn't get defensive swapped into center field instead of Tommy Edman, does he make that catch that was right there, but between the two outfielders that he jumped up and got? And I still can't get over what Yoshinobu Yamamoto did, though. When you look at 96 pitches in game 6. And then he comes back and gives you multiple innings in game 7.
And was ready to go in the 18-inning game after having pitched. But going back to that bottom of the 9th inning, as Kiner Falefa is out at the plate, Kike Hernandez, Pages, as you said, in center field. In looking at the play-by-play on ESPN.com, Clement, it's fly ball to center field. And that's an F8. They had a long way to go to get that ball. They run into each other. Pages celebrates and realizes, oh, my teammate's on the ground. Hernandez gets up and says, don't worry about me. You caught the ball. We're out of the inning. But again, it just looks like an F8 on the scorecard or in the play-by-play. But that was inches away from being, a walk-off right there. The Rojas home run. I mean, Hoffman had his struggles in the regular season, had gotten the job done in the postseason, but, gives up the tying home run. I mean, and you probably would have forgotten about that home run in the offseason and in the future. But Rojas ties the game up. But if the Blue Jays had won it, you forget about that home run like so many other World Series home runs that might have given a team a lead, 5th, 6th, 7th inning on.
Yeah, it's the thing. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, they just announced, is officially the MVP.
Okay. Deserving.
Absolutely deserving. Yeah. This is, to me, I think, where you see a difference in the baseball cultures, right? And we've seen a little bit of in the States, you have a baseball tournament and things like that. It's different in Japan. And I think specifically I'm referring to the Koshien, the Japanese high school baseball championship.
Yeah. Legendary.
Where they will they will play day after day after day after day after day. And Yamamoto has been in that situation where he's pitched a complete game and then come back the next day to do it. And I don't think there was anybody else on either one of these teams who could have done what he did. Like, you heard, what was it? You heard Toronto talk about just about everybody was available. They never mentioned Kevin Gausman. We never saw him once get up. Yamamoto pitches game 6 and gets up for game 7. I have his final stats for the postseason. He went 5-1, 5 starts, 6 appearances, 1.45 ERA with 37 1/3 innings in one postseason.
And that one walk on his ledger in the World Series to Barger to set up potential game-ending, World Series clinching double play, and that's exactly what they got. I mean, they were pitching around him. I thought just, 4 and go down to first base. You realized after the first 2 pitches, just at 2-0, okay, they're just pitching. They're certainly pitching around him. 3-0, just put him on. And that was the only walk he gave up in 2 starts and a relief outing in 3 World Series appearances.
Yeah, it's just, it's
2 2/3.
2 2/3 the day after he pitched. He threw 96 pitches. Just kind of absolutely blows my mind. I know we keep going on and on about this. There's so many things to talk about from this game. It just kind of blows my mind that we even saw that, because that's just not, I genuinely never considered he would actually be pitching tonight. And not only did he pitch tonight, they chose to go for a 3rd inning of him over an actual reliever. I don't think we realize, and maybe I missed somebody. LA didn't throw an actual reliever tonight. Ohtani. Robleski, I guess he's a starter that's been a long man. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so there is that. But then Glasnow,
you say is a starter.
Sheehan, Snell, Yamamoto. That's who they go with in this. And I think the difference, it's funny, for as much as we talked about LA's weakness, the offense wasn't able to do enough, and then the bullpen wasn't there. Bullpen can't blow a World Series for you if you just don't let the bullpen pitch. And they just don't, other than Robleski pitching it in the 3rd, they just really don't use him at all. And the Dodgers are the first National League team to repeat in forever. I forgot.
Reds, right? 75, 76, yeah.
I forgot to do this, but we've got something here from our friends over at Locked On Dodgers.
Love it.
with their thoughts about what just happened and a preview of what they're going to be talking about over on their show.
All right, so the Dodgers are back-to-back world champions. First time in 50 years that a National League team has done that. A walk-off double play, game-ending double play, a home run from Will Smith. Miggy Rojas became a World Series legend. Yamamoto with one of the all-time gamer performances in World Series history. We're going to get to it all. Locked on Dodgers. Check it out.
Love it.
He mentioned the walk-off double play. I want to talk about the Toronto side of this and what's happened to them. We'll do that next right here on MLB Game Night. This episode's brought to you by Prize Picks. Listen, you and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. Because if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. The new Stacks feature is honestly a game changer. You can pick more on a single player's, on every option for that player. Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists in the same lineup. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot will save your lineup from a loss. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Welcome back to MLB Game Night. Lindsey Crosby, Steve Lennox. I want to hear from our friends over at Locked On Blue Jays, because as exciting as the LA side of this was, I think we have to remember how heartbreaking the Toronto side of this was.
All right. It's over. Want me to come on here and have words? I don't. I don't know what to say. Sucks. They were an inch away. They were an inch away at home plate. They were an inch away from Ernie Clement's ball getting over the heads of the outfielders. It's a game of baseball, game of inches. Yeah, I don't got lots to say. I'm sorry, this is tough for everybody. I mean, imagine all the Canadians tuned into this. This team felt like it had the magic to get it done. It's going to be a tough Sunday.
I feel for Carter, Braden. Yeah, I mean, he summed it up. I mean, he didn't want to be on there, but he summed it up perfectly. What the Blue Jays experienced 2 nights in a row, heartbreak, and just the breaks of this game that we all love. That's why we do this. I mean, we love doing it. I mean, I love doing this all season with you, Lindsey.
Likewise.
But I mean, game 6, game 7, both end in double plays, a line drive double play, and the double play that Kirk hits into that, the last thing he needed. I mean, he could have hit the ball anywhere on the infield, and he was going to hit into a game-ending double play because it was Alejandro Kirk. And as he came to the plate, that was, I mean, I don't know what the probability was or what the percentages they would say for him to hit into a double play, but it had to be pretty high against Yamamoto, I would think. I mean, once he put the ball in play, the expected result was exactly what you got.
Yeah, it was the only hope that he had in that situation was to elevate the ball. And I just don't think Yamamoto was going to give him a pitch where he could do that.
Yep.
What is really tough here, like from the context of the Blue Jays, is I think it was very clear outside of the Yamamoto start where they just kind of got dominated. That was game 2. Outside of that, it felt like the Blue Jays were the better team more often than not until these last 2 games in like the last 2 innings. And or last 2-3 innings. It really feels like Toronto did not handle the ends of these games correctly. You mentioned the double play in game 6, double play in game 7. 7 wasn't much you could do about that. You had Kirk running. 6 was a base running issue, right? I mentioned IKF. You don't score there because he doesn't have a good enough lead. Like, they're not going to try to pick you off of third base. Because
Right.
if they throw that ball away, they lose. Like, that's
Yeah.
And just to be a little too conservative in that situation, this feels like the kind of thing Toronto's not going to get over this for a long time. And I think it's because it was so close, and you can point to things that you didn't do well that caused you to lose. It wasn't like you played everything perfectly and the Dodgers just beat you on talent. You made mistakes and they didn't. And to me, that's almost worse, because now you're going to continuously do the what if in your head for years after this.
Yeah, and this team is never intact the way it was for 2025, and a tremendous run. But, you know, you've got 2 very good friends in Vlad Jr., who's staying in Toronto, and Bo Bichette, who very likely could be leaving. And I do believe, and I said it during the game to my buddy that I was watching the game with, the Jays are going to spend money. I mean, they're not just going to say, okay, maybe Bo Bichette somehow, some way stays. I don't know. But this team's never going to be the same going forward, in that sense. But, as you were saying that, I sort of thought of like, yes, they didn't do those things, but, Dodgers been there, done that. I mean, not that they're relying on last year's experience, but the poise and being in those moments and coming through. They did win it last year. They'd been in these spots before. Now, granted, they didn't have their backs to the wall in games 6 and 7. We didn't have games 6 and 7 last year when they won 5 against the Yankees. But I just felt like, that being in the moment, being there before and closing something out, again, went to bed after game 6 saying you had your opportunity right there. You still have another opportunity, but you had them down and you did knock them out.
Yeah. And I feel like some of that was like John Schneider too. We've talked about game 3, how they went too heavy on the replacements. And so in extras, their offense was kind of anemic and things like that. But
were you surprised that Yasevich pitched in this one in game 7?
Not necessarily, simply because it felt like the way he's pitched in this series, he was one of the better options.
Yeah.
I think I was surprised that maybe they did not let him finish the inning and they went to Jeff Hoffman. You kind of have to wonder, Jeff Hoffman having that adrenaline dump and then coming back out for the 9th. Did that contribute to the home run? I think that's something. And this is a larger point that I kind of noticed with John Schneider a little bit. He's still a younger manager. It almost felt like he overmanaged maybe a little too much. I mentioned game 3 with all the replacements, something like this, where you either have to let Yasevich get out of it, or you have to not ask Hoffman to go back out, right? You can't ask him to go back out, adrenaline dump to get out of the situation, and then go back out for the 9th inning. And I think it's kind of one of those, you saw a lot of that late. I think a valid question should have been, and a lot of people are asking about the bunt. I want to hear your perspective on the bunt, moving Vlad over a base. I'm an anti-bunting guy. I don't like to bunt. I do feel like in that situation, I get it. But obviously, they just couldn't do the rest to cash it in. Would it have been better to just try to get a hit there versus the automatic bunt, just conceding the out?
I'm a proponent. I'm the opposite. Get the bunt down. And Isaiah Kiner-Falefa didn't get the bunt down the other night. And you heard Smoltz say this is one of the best bunters in the game. And the way he was approaching and not turning soon enough, he was giving himself up. And he knew he was getting the bunt down. He got it down, a beautiful bunt, and moved the runner along. So he did do his job. Now you have 2 opportunities there to get the job done, to get him in. Barger, the guy, I mean, and you said it earlier, credit to Yamamoto, didn't get him anything to hit and did not give Kirk anything to elevate in the outfield. So I believe get the bunt down, because I don't have confidence in Isaiah Kiner-Falefa right there. He's going to hit a ground,
point. Yeah.
If you're confident in yourself, and hitters don't do this anymore, just push the ball to the right side.
Right.
But likely, if I had a scenario to predict right there, it's a 6-3 or 5-3 ground out. There's one out, and Vladdy's still at second base. That's how I would have projected that to play out if they hadn't had the bunt on there.
I mean, I think it's a good point. And I do think credit there to Yamamoto for just not giving them anything that he could, like making sure that it was something that was going to die, that it was going to be an effective thing. Even to Kirk, if you look at that pitch sequence, it's a cutter breaking away from him, which he fouled off. It's a curveball that I don't know why Kirk took a curveball in the heart of the zone.
Yeah.
And then it's a splitter that's dropping that he didn't get a good contact on. And I think it's just Yamamoto only had one strikeout in that 2 and whatever, innings there that he pitched.
He's guile, just guts and guile right there.
But it was on, and it was absolutely fantastic. Okay. I want to have a larger conversation here about what this means going forward. Because you heard the quote from Dave Roberts going into this, let's ruin baseball, in jest. But I do want to have a larger conversation about what this means. Is this a dynasty and all of that? We'll do that next right here on MLB Game Night. What a World Series. What a Game 7. What a postseason. We now have a champion. And guess what? FanDuel's not done. Yes, the NBA is going on. They're the official sports betting partner of that. Yes, NFL is going on. Yes, college football is going on. But guess what? They even have 2026 World Series odds available on FanDuel. And guess what? They don't think the Dodgers are going away. Plus 350 to win the 2026 World Series. New York Yankees are second at plus 700, followed by the Phillies at plus 1,000, the Mets at plus 1,100, Seattle, Houston, Boston, Atlanta, San Diego. You have to go surprisingly far down to get to Toronto. But listen, no matter what sport it is, baseball, NBA, NHL, NFL, NCAA football, FanDuel keeps every game exciting. Right now, FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel. Welcome back to MLB Game Night. Lindsey Crosby, Steve Lennox. Okay, the question that people are going to be asking, I do think we need to discuss this. Is the Dodgers winning a second consecutive World Series bad for baseball? And I think I have a thought that's kind of nuanced, but I want to get your perspective on this while I still try to figure out the right way to word this.
Okay. I don't think them winning a second. Now, if they had won 4-0 and you can say, well, the largest, biggest team to spend the most money won 4 in a row. They did it to the Brewers. They did it to the Blue Jays in the World Series. This went 7 games. Mm-hmm. Blue Jays took them right to the end. And what it showed was it's not easy, A, to win the World Series, and B, it's certainly, we got to go back to the Yankees and 3 in a row. And now they've got a chance to match that from the Yankees of 98, 99, 2000. But this was not easy. This was not a cakewalk. And the Blue Jays had plenty of opportunities to end this. Bo Bichette, station to station, doesn't score on that base hit early in the game. I had John Shambi on ESPN radio. I was like, there's no way he's scoring unless it's truly, we talked about this throughout. Yeah. And those little things came back to bite the Toronto Blue Jays. Take this entire World Series, all 7 games, and if you started getting into it and understanding, okay, this is what the Dodgers are trying to do. Yes, their payroll is the biggest in baseball, all these different things. Yes, they've got these stars. They still had to go all the way to extra innings in game number 7. I think it helps baseball more because I think people, as you got into game 4, 5, 6, 7, understanding how difficult it was and appreciating now what they've done. Yes, payroll it's part of the storyline, but what they did is awfully difficult, and they found a way to do it. And I think you gain more fans and an appreciation if you can have appreciation of what you just saw. I don't follow the NFL, but I have an appreciation for whatever teams get to the NFL and the Super Bowl. I have an appreciation for the journey that they've done. And this journey ends with a second straight World Series. And I think you got to tip your cap to them and to baseball. This was a terrific, I've said it for a while now, terrific, fantastic postseason. I think baseball, shot in the arm, generate more fans. And are they going to be there the way we are, Lindsay, 162? Probably not, but that's understandable. We're insane. But I think people check in more now, next year. And I think, for a younger fan base, perhaps there's not a black eye in baseball because the Dodgers won it with the highest payroll in baseball for me with 2025.
Yeah. I think
I went longer there, long-winded as I am.
Go
ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I think my concern here is I think I knew there was going to be a lockout either way, right? Like I think we all expected there, just the way that Rob Manfred's talked about it, I think we all expected there to be a lockout after the 2026 season. I do think that the Dodgers winning with their financial resources that they've had, with being able to do the deferred contract thing and all of that, the Shohei Ohtani, it's in the rules. The Shohei Ohtani situations never come up for anybody else. Nobody's ever deferred anywhere near that amount. It is in the rules. They did nothing wrong here. But I do think there's going to be more fans on the side of management in this upcoming lockout when it happens because of the Dodgers and the way that their team was constructed and all of that. Now, Toronto still spends a ton of money. They had like a top 5-6 payroll, but there's a perception of the Dodgers similar to the perception of the Yankees, that 98, 99, 2000 Yankees we talked about that won 3 straight. I don't necessarily think it's warranted. The difference between those Yankees and the rest of the league was significantly bigger than the difference in the Dodgers and the rest of the league. And I believe the Mets actually had the highest payroll in baseball and didn't make the postseason this year.
Right.
But I do think that we have the possibility of a lockout maybe being more contentious with more fans than last time being on the side of the owners if they come out and publicly say they want a cap. And I think that's frustrating. I never want to be on the side of the billionaires, and I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I do think it's easy to say, though, this Dodgers team is a dynasty at this point. Right?
Yeah, and history has stated, baseball fans have been upset with both sides, but they've always sort of steered towards ownership groups of players shouldn't be making it. Well, no one caps the owners on what they can make. I mean, $200 million, I believe, in just ad revenue for this year for the Dodgers. They've got the ability to do that. They've got to do that to run their operation. This is 30 ball clubs that are run individually, 30 separate businesses. And they're competitive, and you're talking salary cap now. I mean, you've got to talk about the low tier teams too in those numbers of the $50-60 million payrolls. If there's a cap, and I don't think there ever is, you've got to have a floor. These teams have to spend money on the lower end too. But over history with the work stoppages, whether strike or lockouts, which is what we could see next December of 2026, fans have usually been on the side of management. And I don't always agree with that, but I don't know. I see in our comments we've got a lot of that going on right now. Looking ahead to 2026, I do think I want to enjoy this one.
Yeah, I do think the biggest problem would be if there is a work stoppage, simply because you have so much momentum right now. This was such a phenomenal World Series. The ratings, yes, you had more viewership from Canada than usual, but the ratings were so much better than they've been the last couple years. And so going on to do this, when you
made me think of the Ted Turner quote there.
There you go. When you think back, I guess a little more positive thing here to kind of wrap this up. When you go back and you think about this World Series in 3, 5, whatever years, what's going to be the one big thing that stands out to you? Is it going to be the 18-inning game? Is it going to be Yamamoto in Game 7? Like, what's going to be the thing that's going to end up being the story of this World Series?
The one story.
Because every World Series has like a thing, right? Yeah. A story.
Shohei gets kind of pushed down.
Yeah.
The Rojas home run to tie it, and then, Will Smith hitting a home run in Game 7. I think really the 2 double plays to end Game 6 and Game 7 to end the whole thing. The double plays for the Blue Jays, because again, fundamental baseball, 5-10 years ago, the Blue Jays win either in 6 or in 7. not present day for some reason. Lack of instincts, lack of instruction, lack of just a lot of things of fundamental baseball that don't exist with all 30 clubs. And yes, we saw it on the highest level in the World Series. I think that for me right now, to say in the moment, the 2 double plays to end the final 2 games.
It feels like for me, it's going to be Yamamoto, or
Yeah.
just what he did. And just the fact that, I mean, if you look at, he pitched 17 2/3 innings in the World Series with 2 runs allowed and 15 strikeouts. He picked up 3 wins in 1 World Series. And I just can't remember the last time we saw one pitcher pick up 3 wins in a World Series that wasn't a reliever. I'm sure it's happened a couple times, maybe Sale in 18. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I feel like there's been a couple, like, but 17 2/3 innings in a 1 World Series.
And you touched on it earlier. Great job by you of touching on it, of what he's done in Japan.
Yeah.
This wasn't abuse. This was a guy who knew what he was capable of doing because he had worked so hard to be in this moment for this World Series and be available for his team. But present day thinking for me, the narrative for him, for Yamamoto, continues into next season, perhaps, if he blows out. And, he pitched too much in October and those things. I always feel like nowadays that's like that's the conclusion of a statement like that. But yeah, I mean, for what he did overall, yes, that's player-wise, yes, I think you nailed it on the head.
Yeah, he's the second Japanese-born winner of the World Series MVP award ever, joining Hideki Matsui in 2009. Okay, Steve, we're about to get out of here. Any final thoughts on the World Series that was the season and our tenure here on MLB Game Night?
Loved working with you Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I love the fact that, hey, JD, John, loved working with them too. But, we got to wrap this up on November 1st into November 2nd on the East Coast. We can turn the clocks back. I appreciate the fact that the journey led to a second straight World Series. It's been a long time since we've seen it. So again, I have a great appreciation for what the Dodgers have accomplished over the last 2 years. I feel for the Blue Jays. Don't know if they get back. It's a tough division.
It is.
But I mean, they've got some young talent, obviously. We've seen that. And hey, Vladdy comes back. Who knows with Bo Bichette?
We'll see what Toronto does. For JD Haffron, for John Frisch, our early week team, for Brian McKeon, our Sunday host, for Steve Lennox, I'm Lindsey Crosby. This has been a full season of MLB Game Night. Every game, every night.